How can you build a globally distributed website or mobile application to distribute to your customers all across the world? So getting started here with the front end or the website, you want to use a global file propagation system. So this means that the place that your website files are hosted on, you want to make sure that under the hood, that system is distributing those files to servers all across the world. And a lot of systems will do this automatically, but you just want to check and make sure that they are doing this. And there's a free service that you can use that does this. I'll demonstrate that for you in just a moment. But you can actually ping from regions all across the world and see how your website is performing as far as latency from, let's say, South America to your website, or Southeast Asia to your website, or the United States to your website. You can actually check and make sure that it's working this way. And so some examples of these global services that host and propagate your files globally would be Firebase Hosting, I know does it. Microsoft Static Websites do it, and that is in the Azure platform. And then, like I said, we need to verify this using a ping test, and I'll demonstrate that for you right now. Now, the tool I like to use is called KeyCDN, and the website is tools.keycdn.com. I'll leave a link below. It's not sponsored by them. I just like their product. And if you go in here and you type in the website you have, and again, this is for websites. We'll get to mobile apps in just a moment. So I'm going to type in my company website, https://botgroupllc.com. That's my company. And if we click test, then we will see we are getting global tests done from all these different locations across the world. And you are looking for low numbers here. Okay, these are in milliseconds, so as long as it's under 1 second, that would be quite good. And mine is well under even a tenth of a second most of the time, or even, this is 31 milliseconds, so that's quite fast, and that's good. And that's what you're looking for. So as long as you see fairly low numbers across the board, then you can rest assured that your website is being hosted in a globally distributed system, meaning that the files are hosted in regions all across the world, and that your underlying hosting system is globally replicating your files, which is what you want for your website. Okay, now let's go on here to the presentation and start looking at mobile apps. So not just websites now, but actual mobile apps, the front end for that. Well, for this is actually quite simple. The App Store and the Google Play Store have some pretty awesome global distributed systems for getting apps to people all across the world. So you can actually choose within the App Store and the Google Play Store, when you're managing your app, you can choose what places you want your app to appear in. And so you can say, okay, I want everywhere except Europe, or I want only Australia. And so you can be very specific to the actual regions. Okay, now let's talk about backend APIs. And this will be in two parts. We have the actual API, or the application programming interface. In other words, the actual server that users are going to be communicating with to, say, send login requests to, or to retrieve data about their profile, things like that. So the backend API will be one piece, and then the backend database will be the other piece. Now, for the API, you want one for every region that you want to support. For example, if you want your app in America and India, then you want one for Central US, say, and then one for India, say. You do want one server per region that you want to support. Otherwise, when people are trying to connect to your application, trying to log in, the website might load fast, but requests to perform actions and get data, that might be slow. And of note here, the UI should detect the region of the user and point to the relevant API server. And what that means is that, say I'm in the United States, my user interface should be able to detect my region. Commonly, it's just the device data. The device will have information about that. And this is important because the different servers will be at different locations, of course, and so you want to be pointing to the server that is closest to the user. Okay. Now let's talk about the backend database. So the database is where the data is actually stored for the user, storing their login credentials somewhere, or their username and their password hash, or however your database is storing that. When we are globally scaling databases, we want to make sure that the data is replicated across regions. Now, some systems will do this automatically, automatic data syncing and data replication across regions, and that would be awesome to take advantage of. If you don't have an automated system to do this, I guess you could do it manually, or I suppose you could just have one separate database for every region that you're targeting. So maybe users in India have one database, and then users in the US have one database, and there's no data replication. That's not ideal. But if you don't have an automated system that does that, I know that Microsoft databases do have an auto replication feature, which is nice. So take advantage of it if you can. And then another thing to keep in mind is that when you're using data replication, you want the IDs for your objects, say, user objects, or, if you're building a notes app, the note objects, those IDs for those objects should be GUIDs, and that's GUID, that's a globally unique identifier. And the reason you want to use GUIDs is because then the IDs will be distinct between databases. So even though the data is syncing between the databases, the IDs will be globally unique, and you don't have to worry about those IDs colliding with each other. If you didn't do that, then you might have, one database with user number 1 created in India, and then in the United States server or database, you would have another user with ID 1, and when you tried to merge them, you would have a conflict, and that would be a big problem. So you want to use GUIDs for your IDs. Now, if you're looking for someone to build software for you, I offer a free consultation. I build apps, websites, APIs, databases, etc. I can do global scale or just local. Keep it small if you want to. So feel free to click the link in the description below if you would like some software developed for you. I can give you a quote, a general estimate on the call as well. And so thanks for watching, and if you're interested, click the link below, and I'll see you in the next video.